again. Welcome into 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Welcome again into Strategies for Living. You're starting early on me over there.
Just Ruben gave me the giggles. It's his fault.
Okay. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. You are the giggling PLPC Carla McCormick. He is the ace of the airwaves. Rapid Ruben Wright.
Right before the show, she's always rubbernecking over my screens to try and look at her camera.
Well,
It's a little vanity Smurf action.
a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, Ruben.
No, see, I'm all behind this screen.
You don't ever notice Ruben fixing his hair, do you?
Well, that's because he wears that silly hat.
That's exactly right. Hey, welcome, folks, into Strategies for. Welcome into our conversation here. You know, you're probably happy because of what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to talk about one of your favorite subjects.
Addiction.
Yeah, well, Kata, one of our great sponsors. Dr. Kent Dean is here. You're going to meet him. It is the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, our title sponsor, and got big things coming up. We're going to talk about the annual dinner with Marsha is coming up. We've got the School of Addiction that is expanding throughout the state. We're going to talk about that, and there's some events coming up in September and again in November that we want to talk about that are very special. Dr. Kent Dean is our life strategist here this evening on Strategies. So plenty of time for you to, be excited about that because you're going to learn from a master today.
I've heard. I hadn't met him until tonight, so I'm feeling excited and quite honored.
Well, behave.
You heard I was framed, all right?
Both of you behave yourself. Folks, thank you for tuning into Strategies for. Oh, and I missed you. You okay?
Oh, yeah.
Great. Now that we know that you've got your hair fixed, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. I took the razor after it the other day.
There you go. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We are presented by CATA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. Of course, been helping individuals and families for 60 years. We're going to talk a lot more about that this evening here on Strategies. We're also brought to you by Jerry Anderson State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well, Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House. Coming right back to bring on Dr. Kent Dean as we talk about CATA and the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health and lots more here on Strategies. Stay with us. Welcome back into Strategies for Living, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan and PLPC Carla McCormick. Please welcome to Strategies Now the Director of Clinical Services for CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. He's also the Director of the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health, overseeing its expansion now throughout the state of Louisiana. Been knocking around addiction and recovery and all of that stuff since the 70s. You and I go back further than I even want to think about. Dr. Kent Dean, our life strategist. Welcome, Dr. Dean.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
It is. It's good to have you here and meet. You've already met Carla, and yeah. So lots of recovery time in this room.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Is that an old joke?
Whatever. We got a lot coming up, a lot to talk about here this evening, Kent. I guess the most germane thing is coming up next week, September the 20th.
That's this week.
That's actually this week. So what, the day after tomorrow?
That's Thursday.
That's Thursday evening. Let's talk about trauma at the Robinson Film Center. This is a free event.
It is. And we have a crackerjack panel coming on.
Yeah.
We have Clay Walker, who's an area attorney who is Director of Juvenile Services for Caddo Parish, and has done a lot of work, actually statewide, in what are called adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and their effects on kids vis-a-vis the criminal justice system. We also have Chief Judge David Matlock of the Caddo Parish Juvenile Court coming with him. And Barzana White, Dr. White, is a district school psychologist and school climate transformation director. And our own executive director, Bill Rose, will also be there as the moderator of the panel.
Fantastic. Now, the registration, 5:30.
Yeah.
5:30 to 6, registration and refreshments. The program begins with panel presentations at 6.
That's right.
And then questions from the audience between 7 and 8:30. Mm-hmm. What a great event. Plus, it's all free. It's down at the Robinson Film Center, so great location. And
you can also earn continuing education if you're a clinician.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about childhood trauma, because, of course, in the ACE study, one of the things that it did was connect, among other things, the impact of adverse childhood experience on addiction.
Yes.
Because this was an extremely large study, started back in 1995, and 26,000 consecutive patients that sought medical treatment at Kaiser Permanente, and 71% agreed to be in the study. Mm-hmm. So you had over 17,000 participants, mostly middle-aged American adults. And they looked at adverse childhood experience, like you said, ACEs, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, an incarcerated relative, a mother that's been treated violently. Substance abuse was one of the key things looked at. Mental illness, the loss of a parent, physical neglect, and emotional neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And so an environment like that creates a lot of stress, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And what we now know is that the stress engendered by the situations you were talking about doesn't go away. Even if the situation, or when the situation moderates and maybe the stress factors go away, the child's brain doesn't go back to the way it was before all this happened. It adopts a new normal, and that normal is dysfunctional.
Yeah. And that toxic stress is from that prolonged activity that includes the parental neglect, exposure to violence, trauma. There's a broad range there, isn't there?
And frighteningly enough, it doesn't even have to be long-range trauma. It can be 1 or 2 exposures to trauma that can do the damage.
And so a lot of these experiences have been closely associated with parental or caregiver use of various substances, and those include alcohol, opioids, and or amphetamines, right?
That's right.
Wow. So what we get out of that is then a child with attachment problems, and from a brain point of view, you've got a less developed and actually smaller brain, according to the study, fewer neural connections, and that can lead to some severe cognitive deficits. You know, we talk about addiction as a brain disease.
That's right.
This really underscores that, doesn't it?
It does. And the cognitive deficits that you mentioned are something that we see now by definition. Everybody that we talk to who has trouble with addiction, whether they're in recovery or not. And it's not attention deficit disorder necessarily, but it's something that's next door to it. Right. And so we have to take that into consideration, not only the way we render treatment, but also in aftercare and relapse prevention.
What did the study say about these traumatic events in early childhood, like very young children? Because I can't remember, but I remember reading a study about you know, kids who were infants, and you know, before they were really toddlers, and you know, growing up in, you know, environments that were caustic, say with screaming and yelling and carrying on, and that even those kids were affected.
Yes, I think something that many adults perhaps forget is how sensitive a child's not only brain but the rest of the organs are. If you yell at a child, for example, that's tantamount to somebody, if you're an adult, being exposed to a sound maybe of a jet aircraft. It's really, really loud, and it has tremendously debilitating effects even over a brief period of time. And you can imagine what happens in the brain of a child when they're exposed to traumatic situations. The brain is not able, because of the lack of development, it's not yet able to summon a repertory of responses that might help the child cope. And they get frozen or stuck, if you will, in kind of a fight, fright, or flight situation.
Yeah, because what the study was talking about is exactly that. It's, you know, because you know, you'll hear clients say, well, you know, we were just fighting in front of the baby, they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And what the study said is they may not, you know, intellectually know what's going on, but they pick up on the vibes, and that negative atmosphere affects them.
That's right. I kind of give parents a short version of that. The brain is part of the body. And if you do anything that hurts the brain, that's physical abuse.
Wow.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, and what really gets your attention is the higher number of the study. Another thing that came out of this study is the higher number of incidents of childhood exposure to abuse and to violence. The greater risk of an early death for that individual.
You know, we all have an enzyme percolating in our body called cortisol, and under certain circumstances, cortisol is a good thing to have. If I'm under some sort of immediate stress, somebody's running after me to hit me or whatever, the body's going to pump up the cortisol. That's going to allow me to act very decisively, and that can probably save my life. Unfortunately, if cortisol is evoked in the body over a longer period of time, it begins to do damage not only to brain cells but to other organs in the body. Heart disease, liver disease can come from this. So cortisol is great in short bursts, but if it goes on too long, it can actually start to dismantle various organs in the body, including the brain.
And that childhood exposure to toxic stress, you mentioned heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, diabetes, all of those showed at increased risk.
That's right.
For people with a higher ACE score. So this is something that we all need to educate ourselves and know more about. The incidence of substance abuse only increases by about 300%.
Only 300%.
Yeah. And major affective disorder, that would be a diagnosable, mood disorder, only by increased 200%.
And that's interesting that you bring that up, because we've long known that people who present for problems with addiction have at least one other major psychiatric problem going on, and now we are having a better understanding of why.
So this is something that we all need to learn about. CADA again comes through with Thursday night this free presentation. Great place, the Robinson Film Center. Doors are open at 5:30. Refreshments registration begins then. Just come sign up. You don't have to call for a reservation. You don't have to get a ticket.
That's right.
And you just come. The program begins at 6 o'clock. Clay Walker, the attorney Clay Walker, Director of Juvenile Services for Caddo Parish, Chief Judge David Matlock of the Juvenile Court, Dr. Barzana White from Caddo Parish Schools, and Mr. Bill Rose, a good friend of yours.
Yes, indeed.
Executive Director of CADO.
A good friend of all of us.
Of all of us, yes. So come and learn more about childhood trauma, this profound psychological, physiological, and sociological impact. And this is something how could we not be touched? How could anyone listening to us right now not be touched by adverse childhood experiences?
Yep.
I love what this says. It says, rather than asking what's wrong with this child, we should be asking what has happened to this child.
Mm-hmm.
That's so profound.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
even in our work, a lot of times, I will think, what happened to this person? Because people don't come into the world angry and hurting and mean and all of the things. Something happens to them.
Yes.
The old expression, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We're talking to Dr. Kent Dean from the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, Northwest Louisiana. He's our life strategist this evening. Got a lot more to talk about. We'll remind you again about the presentation this Thursday at the Robinson Film Center. Coming back, we'll talk about the annual dinner coming up and more.
Cry every night.
back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Marriage and family therapist David McMillan, PLPC, Carla McCormick, and our life strategist this evening is Dr. Kit Dean, the Director of Clinical Services for CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. He's also the Director of the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health. And I was excited to find out you are taking this all over the state, young man. And so what's going on? What's happening here?
Well, ultimately, what we want to have are divisions of the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health, the one here in North Louisiana, then one in Central Louisiana in the Alexandria area,
right,
and then one that we already have in operation, which is the New Orleans, Baton Rouge area, SABH South. And the first course in that area is going to be taught early in October. So we're rolling along.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you who is the school for, Kent? It's the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health. Who I'm assuming counselor types and psychology types.
Yeah.
But it's open to a lot of other folks too, right?
It is. In fact, we have some students who are interested members of the community who, for whatever reason, are interested in topics at this level of complexity, and they make really good participants. So pretty much anybody who wants to avail themselves of this knowledge is more than welcome.
You may be working in the addiction field. You may be working as a nurse. You may be working as a tech. You just may be interested in is a career perhaps something for me?
Well, what I often say is that everybody works with addiction, whether they realize it or not.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
you mean because it touches so many of our lives?
Sure. It's such a pervasive phenomenon that every mental health professional, every medical professional is involved at close range with people with addiction, even if they may not be aware of it.
Ken, is the school for people trying to get some kind of credentialing that they can get employment in the recovery industry?
Yes, it actually serves several functions. If people are in the process of getting credentialing, then we offer some hours that are required for that, but we also offer continuing education for those people who've already achieved their credential.
So this would be like counselor of addiction, or what are those credentials?
Well, we have an Addictive Disorder Regulatory Authority, or ADRA, which is our state board of addiction counselors, and they offer several tiers of counseling. One is a registered counselor who has a high school diploma, a certified counselor who has a bachelor's degree, and then a licensed counselor who has a master's degree or higher. And we cater to all of those clientele. So
if anyone would like more information about the school, a good place to begin would be cadanwla.org.
And we have a Facebook page also.
And so again, just go to Facebook and CADA School of. How do I get there?
Well, there are two ways. One through the main CADA website, but now the school also has its own proprietary website, and we also have our Facebook page.
Fantastic. So lots of what are some of the different courses that are offered throughout the year?
Well, the ADRA, speaking of ADRA, talks about 12 core functions of an addiction counselor, and they involve the things that counselors do every day: intake, screening, treatment planning, teaching, documentation, and such. We offer classes in all of those things. Now, we understand that people have those kinds of subjects when they pursue an academic degree in counseling. What we try to offer is a more pragmatic or practical or hands-on pass at that information, which a lot of times students in schools don't necessarily have time to get enough of that. So we try to offer more hands-on, more practical things. But we also offer psychopharmacology. We offer trauma training. We offer family counseling. Pretty much anything that an addiction counselor or any other mental health professional is going to encounter in working with addiction, we offer training in that.
Most of the sessions involve Saturday classes, so they don't disrupt your life. Maybe some on Wednesdays also.
We have a section on Wednesday mornings for some people who work on Saturdays, and they decided that they would rather attend on Wednesday. So we try to cover everybody's schedule as best we can.
Many of the professors also include technology, so you'll come to class some, perhaps interact on the internet.
Yes.
So again, all of that at the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health. You young man, you are just busy.
You know, they talk about retiring. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I retired. I'm busier now than I've ever been in my life.
One of the things that actually shocked me, and again, you can get more information at the CADA website and at the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health sites, both the site and the Facebook page. But the this is affordable. This is big. I don't have to go out. I'm not going to have to go out and make a student loan to be able to come to the courses. Yeah.
We deliberately research the market and then underprice ourselves in relation to the market because we recognize that people aren't necessarily always affluent enough to be able to get the hours they need, especially people who are just starting out. So we wanted to make ourselves affordable.
What a great resource,
yeah,
huh? And it's right here in town. I mean, I don't know that people who are not in the recovery industry world realize what a great resource we have in CADA. You know, not every city, even cities the size of Shreveport, have an organization like CADA. Yeah. So to have such a strong recovery, you know,
engine.
Yeah, thank you. Is just how great for that to be here.
It's a blessing. So, it really is.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are getting the word out and having, you know, things that are, you know, open and available to people of all, you know, from all walks of life.
I just thought of this. It's a rose for our community with a rose at the helm.
Oh, God. I hope if Bill is listening, I'm so sorry, Bill.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, that brings me to another, you know, thing with Kate. I couldn't agree with you more, Carla, but you know, I'm excited about Marcia.
I know. Yeah. Well, you know, CADA is nonprofit, so guys, we need to, if we want them to stay and to thrive, we've got to support them.
It's been 60 years. We mention that every day because they're one of our title sponsors, and for 60 years they've been helping individuals, they've been helping families. 60 years of hope, and that's the theme for the dinner coming up. This has been going on for several years. And, you know, some of the past speakers have just shocked me. I didn't think we could get, you know, better than, you know, Mackenzie Phillips, who just absolutely, you know, just did wonderful. Help me out here. Good.
Tom Arnold spoke last year.
That's right.
And he was phenomenal.
And but it seems like every year, you top yourself. So the keynote speaker this year is Miss Maureen McCormick, Marcia Brady.
No relation.
Yeah. No, yes, exactly. And we all watched, you know, Marcia, Maureen, grow up in the Brady bunch.
Oh, I didn't. I was too young.
Yeah. Well, you probably saw her with, you know, on Dancing with the Stars.
Nick at Night or something like that. Yeah.
And she struggled. I mean, and you know, she's written about this. She's been very public with it. So she's going to tell her story of the struggle, her own struggle with substance abuse, and how issues surrounding addiction have changed over the decades. And so this event's coming up Wednesday, October the 10th, at the beautiful downtown Shreveport Convention Center. And I think you and I are going to make it a point to be there that evening.
I think we should.
And this is, again, this is a major fundraiser for CADA each and every year. What do we need to do to reserve our table?
Just call CADA and they will sign you up.
Single tickets are you can sign up for them also on the website.
Yes, you can.
CADANWLA.org, and you can reserve a table if you would like to support, you know, your church, let's say your church group, your business, your office, wants to come and at your clinic and be a support for CADA, you can reserve an entire table.
Yes, you can, and it's a great way to support CADA and also your own agency.
That's right. So you get to hear Marsha. You get to hear Maureen McCormick. You get a dinner and the admission, all for one low price.
That's right.
And support CADA all at the same time.
Mostly support CADA.
Yeah, yeah. And as you said, Carr, you said it well. We have a jewel here in our community in CADA.
I mean,
and what they do.
They're going into Baton Rouge and Alexandria and towns way south of here, and doing the school. That tells me that those cities don't have a CADA. So if there's a market for them to go into those cities and do that, that tells me, we've got something pretty special here.
In researching the market for the school, we were kind of shocked to find out that we are one of the very few approved providers in Louisiana, anywhere in the state.
Wow.
So, in addition to the education piece, in addition to the resource piece, CADA also provides quality and affordable treatment for addiction.
Yes.
And they are ready to step up and help anyone who's ready to break the chains of addiction. There's 14 different treatment programs for people, all walks of life, that CADA provides for our community. And so they're here. All you got to do is call.
And I think, are you guys the only adolescent program in town?
We offer, the adolescent program is over on Crockett Street, and it's one of the very few of its kind in the state.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that. So we talked last night with the author who, talked about families with addiction. So guys, we have. If you have a teenager, if you have someone that you are is struggling with addiction in your family, a kid, we've got help available right here in town. I mean, I know I sound like a walking billboard, but it's just huge to know that that's right here in our community. Kids don't have to get shipped off to Dallas or Texas or Arizona or Florida. We've got help right here in town.
Absolutely.
And I might say, if we have time, our programs are what are called trauma informed, pardon me, which means that every single program we offer takes into consideration the fact that everybody who comes to see us may well have experienced trauma in their lives.
Right.
And we work with them in a very focused way to help them move beyond that.
You can break free. You can go to cadanwla.org, CADA.nwla.org. You can call them at 222-8511. There's the Bossier Treatment Center. As Carla mentioned, there's the Adolescent Treatment Center. And there's a Veteran Recovery Center. So nobody's left out. We're talking about CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, this evening with its Director of Clinical Services, Dr. Kent Dean. Going to come back and I know there's something that you're going to talk about in November coming up on impulse control.
That's
Let's
right.
come back and talk about that.
Okay, great.
I'm impulsive to do that. We'll be back.
I'll do it right now.
And I'm trying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play soft.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. PLPC, Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist David McMillan, our life strategist this evening, the Director of Clinical Development and Services at CADA, Mr. Kent Dean, Dr. Kent Dean. And I know why, Carla, they have put him in charge of this program coming up in November on impulse control.
Because he's so smart?
Well, yeah, he is that, but he's also impulsive about getting letters behind his name. I've never seen so many letters behind somebody's name.
Well, I like school. Is that a problem?
PhD, LAC, CCGC, CCS, CADA, Director of Clinical Development. I've never seen so many letters.
I don't even know what all of those mean.
I don't either.
Okay, so let's talk about impulse control. Again, another free event that is also approved for continuing education. It's going to happen at the Robinson Film Center on November the 2nd, 2018. You are presenting.
That's right.
And tell us a little bit about what's going to happen.
Well, we're kind of going full circle because we started the program talking about ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Right.
And the difficulty in cognitive function that can bring about. It turns out that to make an addict, it takes, to use the cliche, a perfect storm of various factors.
Right.
One of which is, and it's kind of a chicken or the egg kind of thing, but everybody who comes for services has, to one degree or another, has difficulty with what are called executive functions.
Yes.
And those are higher level of functions, higher level brain functions that allow us to isolate, to plan, to organize, and to carry out a task, and then shift attention and do something else. And everybody that I've ever worked with any kind of a problem with addiction has trouble with executive functions.
Right.
One of the offshoots of that is then impaired impulse control, which can be really catastrophic when somebody's hit with a craving. If they lapse back into that long practiced behavior pattern of having a craving and then thinking about getting something to drink and use and then doing it, it really happens without any kind of breaks, as you might say, to stop it from playing itself out. So one of the things we have to teach people how to do is, it sounds so simple to say, but it isn't simple, and that is to stop, get your wits about you, come back to yourself, plan what you want to do at just this moment, just this second. And so this whole workshop on the 2nd is, on November 2nd, is given over to strategies that we actually use to help people with impulse control problems.
Now this is Friday, November the 2nd. It's registration at 10:30 in the morning. Again, it's a free event, and the first part of the program will begin at 11 o'clock and go 11 to noon. There's a lunch break from noon to 12:30, and then the second part of the program from 12:30 to 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
Low impact audience participation, so going to give a chance for people to participate, ask their questions, but low impact. You don't have to speak.
People are not going to be marching around the room or anything like that. That's very low impact, and we hope people will come to play because we strive to make this kind of thing entertaining, because in the course of entertaining our clients, some of this sticks better than it would if it were just some kind of a chore. The entertainment aspect is a mnemonic device, a memory hook.
You like the games, don't you?
Yeah,
we
like to play games.
You're a game guy.
I am.
Yeah. And
let me tell you why. But about 25 years ago, I went to a statewide conference in Baton Rouge, and one of the topics was attention deficit disorder as a precursor to trouble with addiction. And this is just when the very first research started coming out about all these links.
Right.
And I remember the speaker saying that he had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and that working with that and learning to moderate that and work around it, if you will, was one of the major struggles that he'd had in his own recovery.
Right.
And that made such an impression on me because I have ADHD, and it also brought it home that the simplest kind of conceptualizing a task to be done and carrying it out turns out to be really, really complex, even for people who have no impulse control problems.
Right.
It's kind of like teaching a robot to walk, we take walking for granted, but it takes a lot of code to teach a robot how to walk.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes a lot of planning and foresight and effort and practice for somebody with an addictive disorder and other mental illnesses also to learn how to pace themselves, to go at their own pace, and to do one thing at a time. And that's the core right there, is one thing at a time.
Right. Wow. And again, just underscoring something that you said earlier, Carla, all of this, these activities presented free opportunities to come and learn. Just all Kata asks you to do is show up. Just come.
Well, and this is open to educators, teachers, parents,
everyone,
counselors,
anybody who, and like Bill said, I don't even know that I can think of one family that I know that in some way has not been touched by addiction.
Absolutely.
You know, it's everywhere.
And when you combine addiction and trauma, it really is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, Dr. Dean, I have a question about if you know that you are working with a child who has experienced trauma, what's the goal? Is the goal to change how I deal with that child, to be able to reach that child? Because you can't unring the bell. The trauma has happened.
That's right.
So now that we know that the trauma has happened, what's next?
Well, this is true of children and adults. And I'm not really qualified to work with children, but what I've seen is that there doesn't seem to be a major difference. My hunch is that at some point in the future, addiction is going to be seen somehow as a developmental disorder rather than what it is now. But be that as it may, regardless of someone's age, they seem to lack the age-appropriate norms for impulse control. Obviously, a toddler is not going to have the same impulse control as a 25-year-old. But what we see is that people are inhibited or held back because their impulse control is defective to the degree that they really can't function as an age-appropriate person.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with that. Trauma begets that, and so we have to deal, first of all, with the trauma in some kind of appropriate way, and then along the lines of later recovery or later treatment or aftercare, relapse prevention, we help them deal with the impulse control problem.
So we can't expect somebody to just get sober and then deal with the trauma. The two have to go hand in hand and happen kind of at the same time.
It's an excellent point. Getting sober actually makes it worse.
Right, because then you don't have your coping mechanism that you've been using to deal with those feelings.
Exactly, and the reason I think so many addicts are smokers is because nicotine is a stimulant, and stimulants have a beneficial effect on the part of the brain called the locus ceruleus, which has to do with activity level and all of that. And higher doses of stimulants actually mute its firing. So now that most meetings are non-smoking, for example, if you go to an AA meeting and people are in there fidgeting, they can't sit still because they're not smoking.
I love it.
That's so funny that and I guess I'm going to tell on myself. I didn't ever smoke till I quit drinking.
There you go.
And then I had something else to quit. I mean, but it was this strange phenomena that happened.
It's like any other psychiatric illness. Illnesses tend to become, what do you want to say, unmasked, I guess, when the person gets sober and straight. And people with coexisting depression will notice that the depression gets worse because they're not medicating it away now with alcohol or other drugs. And certainly the same thing is true of impulse control problems.
We've got a couple of minutes before break. I know you also wanted to mention, Kent, the Edna I. Davis Foundation support. What's that about?
It's a new program. It's a family support program funded in part by a grant from the Edna I. Davis Foundation, and it's will be offered on Saturdays, and it's open to any, it can be a CADA client or anybody in the community whose family has been touched somehow by addiction. It's mostly education. It's not so much psychotherapy for families. We offer that as well at CADA, but this is more of an education program because clearly, as a teacher, I believe that education is therapeutic.
Absolutely.
So we're looking forward to beginning that in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Dr. Kent Dean, our life strategist this evening from CADA, will come back and recap, talk about a lot of things that we've talked about. Be right back.
But But if me and a certain character met, the guy that invented the cigarette, I'd murder that son of a gun in the first degree. Now, it ain't 'cause that I don't smoke myself, and I don't recommend.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL PLPC. Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist. David McMillan, Dr. Kent Dean, our life strategist from the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. He's the director of clinical services and the director of the School of Addiction and Behavioral Health. And we've covered a lot of ground today, but I guess the most important thing is this coming Thursday. That's day after tomorrow, September the 20th, at the Robinson Film Center. Free event. Let's talk about trauma. Just come. 5:30 is registration and refreshment. The program begins at 6 o'clock. Attorney Clay Walker from Juvenile Services of Caddo, Chief Judge David Matlock of Caddo Parish Juvenile Court, Dr. Barzana White from Caddo Parish Schools, and Bill Rose, the executive director of CADA.
That's right.
All on the panel.
And you don't even need a ticket. Just show up at 5:30 and we'll get you signed up.
And then the annual dinner. Marsha coming up on Wednesday, October the 10th at the Shreveport Convention Center. Tickets are going, and you're going to want to come here, Maureen McCormick. Many of us grew up watching the Brady Bunch. We saw her more recently on Dancing with the Stars, and wow, what a story I'm sure that she is going to tell.
I don't know her story. I'm anxious to hear it.
You and I think Bill Rose has got a place for us, so we're begging anyway. We're hoping. Yeah.
I hope he's listening.
Yeah, there you go. So again, more information about CADA. You can go to the website, cadanwla.org is the website. So how do we ice the cake? You've brought a lot of information this evening.
Well, you were talking about the annual dinner, and one of the things that's always struck me when I'm there is that you have this room full of people, and it's a large room. It's in the convention center.
Right.
And pardon me, they're all out in the open. Basically, if they have trouble with addiction, they make that known. And it's such a wonderful antidote to the secrecy and the shame and the stigma that have been in effect. And I guess they're still in effect, but are getting better, I think. But one of the reasons it's getting better is because people are growing more secure in the reality that addiction is a neurological problem that can be treated, can't be cured, but it can certainly be treated. And we've kind of come out of the closet.
There's been the theme of the dinner this year is 60 years of hope, because CADA has been in our community for 60 years helping individuals and families. And Dr. Kent Dean, thank you for, you've been knocking around the addiction world and the recovery world for a lot of years, helping a lot of people. So
it's been great to be here. Thank you, David.
And thank you for coming this evening.
It was super great to meet you. I've heard all wonderful things. So,
Carla, you've done it again.
He did it. You did it. Dr. Dean did it.
Ruben, you've done it again.
I did do it again.
Yes, yes, you did. Folks, thank you. You've done it again. You've listened to us, and we've been presented by CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, helping individuals and families for 60 years now. Also by Jerry Anderson, State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well, Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Dr. Kent Dean, for PLPC Carla McCormick, and for Ruben Wright, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. See you next time on Strategies for Living.